It is live now.
All right. Thank you so much, Shabana. This is yet another episode of Maven's flagship Consciously Positive series that has been running for many, many months and weeks now. Thank you so much for having me as your guest host today. My name is Sai Ramachandran, and I'm a stand-up comedian from the naturally air-conditioned city of Bengaluru. And our guest today, and I wanted to say it in a slightly different way today because our guest today is so special that I wanted to make sure that I introduce myself in a way that would relate to him. This is Sai Ramachandran reporting for duty from the naturally air-conditioned city of Bengaluru. And our guest today happens to be an armed forces veteran. Let me spotlight him alongside myself so that you guys can also, did I do something wrong? Add spotlight. There you go. I think that's what we need to do. Yes, so let's all welcome with a big round of applause our guest today, Commodore G Prakash. And before I do anything else, I think I should read out his introduction because his introduction says a lot more about him than I can ever remember in one shot. Commodore G Prakash is a recipient of the Nausena Medal from the President of India. He's a former aviator and an anti-submarine specialist from the Indian Navy. In his career of 35 years, he has been the captain of 3 warships, the Navy's training squadron, and 4 large shore bases. After retirement for 2 years, he was vice president and head of Odisha for a multinational corporation dealing with thermal power and ferroalloys. Currently, he's associated with a military tech company and a production house, both in Bengaluru. For over 2 decades, he has been lecturing Indian and international audiences at prestigious national institutions like the National Defense College, Navy and Air Force War Colleges, the College of Defense Management, the Defense Services Staff College, and a large number of civilian audiences, including think tanks, corporate bodies, universities, colleges, and schools. His focus areas have been national security, strategic affairs, history, leadership, and motivation. He has also been writing for long on several topics. So Commodore GP, welcome so much to this episode.
Thank you very much, Sai. Great pleasure to be here.
And we were talking before this that we don't want to make it a typical conversation where we just have, I keep asking you questions and you keep answering questions. We want to make it a little more entertaining for our audience. So our theme today is humor and being funny. As you can see, I'm a comedian as well. So this is sort of on brand for me to do that. So we're going to kick you off by having a little bit of a word game. Are you okay with that? Are you ready to play a word game with me?
Yeah, okay. Never played one before. It's okay. I've played with words, but not a word game.
Oh, I like the way you played on that answer as well. So the common understanding of civilians is that armed forces veterans tend to be very straight and narrow and very strict and, there's very rigid in their outlook. But I wanted to take this opportunity to put you on the spot a little bit and make you reveal more of who you are from inside. And the word game goes something like this. It's very simple. I'll give you a word, a common word that everybody knows, and you have to tell me a name, a place, an animal, and a thing associated with that word. Whatever comes to your mind. You don't have to make it too deep or any insightful thing. It's just a game we're playing. No stress. Are you ready? And this has to be done in 30 seconds. Okay, I'm going to start the timers. There's a little bit of time pressure on you as well. Let me see if I can get the apps. Timer's up. Give me 1 second while I change that to... And then 30 seconds. All right. Commodore GP, ready?
Yeah.
The word is jewelry.
Jewelry. You got nothing to do with jewelry. So you need a place, a person,
an animal,
what is that? A thing, and okay. Place is Kochi, Kochi in Kerala. Person, Commodore K.M. Thomas.
Okay.
Thing is a necklace. Last is an animal. A dog.
A dog. Oh, yeah. You made it just in the nick of time. So clearly you work well under pressure, under time pressure. So, all right. So now you will tell us why you came up with those answers. So why did you come up with, say, the place Kochi for jewelry?
Yeah. Kochi, I live in Kochi, but, see, my wife has no affinity for jewelry. So I'm a safe person in that way. But I happened to go a couple of years back with relatives who had come from UK for
Mhm.
wedding purchases. So naturally, they bought a lot. And unfortunately, it was my phone number given to those jewelry shops. So I'm inundated with advertisements from them, calls from them, the new product, and I got nothing to do with it. So sick and tired of them. That's that's why let us celebrate something together and all. But he doesn't celebrate it. That I have to pay for that. Then only celebrate. No? So it doesn't
I,
enthuse me one bit.
oh man,
So
you're more patient with those people than I could ever be. If people were sending me spam messages, I'd blow up. I'd hate that. All right, so
then
name please.
yeah, place Commodore Thomas. Yeah, you would wonder how a Commodore and yeah, the Commodore Thomas was about 15 years my senior in the Navy. He used to fly the same aircraft that I used to fly. He retired and a tall, stately gentleman with a fantastic beard. That beard, I think, I don't know whether he's pasted it there, with so ideal a beard. And he's just suddenly appeared on billboards of Malabar Gold advertisement as for jewelry ads here. It was amazing. You just couldn't believe it that retired Commodore would be up on billboards jewelry, but
Oh,
it looked so great. I think he was the best model they had.
wait,
But and
I want to know, was he modeling it literally, like wearing the jewelry, or was
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah, yes,
like
modeling, modeling.
no way, no
Someone,
way.
someone spotted him somewhere and said, "Can you model?" And he modeled, and he did very well. He was all over Kerala billboards for some time. Commodore K.M. Thomas.
That is
He
such
is,
unexpected story for a Commodore like yourself, sounds like.
yeah.
Oh, somebody's saying in the chat that Commodore Bappi Lahiri. I don't know, man. That sounds. That's the visual I'm getting as well. So good one, good one.
Then
Nameplates and a place you said animal. Now
Kochi,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Thing is necklace, yeah, necklace.
a
And you said
necklace.
animal, yeah,
Animal.
and
What animal?
yeah. That's because actually they are combined. Because I did see in one of those visits a very bejeweled pet dog. Somebody carrying a dog looks with a lot of jewels on it. The thought that went through my mind is, see, when we fly, I mean, it's a safety requirement that you don't wear wedding rings, bangles, chains and things like that, because it comes in the way of your escape, and you can get stuck somewhere. Your machinery could endanger you if you have these
Hmm.
things. Now, I'm surely an animal is not designed by nature to cater to anything. I mean, it just is itself and nothing else on it. So I
Yeah.
don't know how much of trouble a dog can get into if you have something, a necklace put on, a loose necklace around it. I don't know
Yeah.
whether that pet was a prop or a companion.
Huh.
Supposed to be a companion. I think it was a
Yeah.
prop.
I don't know. I mean, I've never seen pets wearing jewelry, but I guess there are
Yeah,
people.
yeah. There are visual pets are there. Yeah,
Interesting, interesting.
yeah. So it's quite a sad sight.
Cool, cool. So now we've actually broken the ice and we've learned a little bit about Commodore GP as a person, the way he thinks. He has experiences which are novel. He has colleagues who've been models in jewelry for jewelry chains. He's seen pets wearing jewelry. So he's had a fun life. So Commodore, I read your biography and I watched a bunch of videos, and one theme kept coming back to me, that you love history. Is that
Yeah,
a true statement? So they say history repeats itself. History keeps coming back in cycles. They also say history rhymes. So from your analysis of history, and there's a couple of other questions that I want to talk about on this. What common themes do you see across time, at least in the Indian context, maybe the global context also, where history repeats itself or history rhymes with itself? Any examples of that?
yeah. Plenty of examples. But before that, let me tell you. See, I'm quite sad to see that actually history is not a very favored subject among students. I think the problem is not there is no boring history. There are only boring history teachers.
Hmm.
We were taught, we were lucky in school, in Sainik schools where I studied. I was taught by someone called C.C. John, sir. I mean, when he would talk about, say, Rani Lakshmi Bai in the classroom, you could actually hear you could hear the horse, imagine she coming into the classroom with a horse, on a
Hmm.
horse. I mean,
Hmm.
that kind of imagery, I mean, they created. And it was
Hmm.
not just boring reading. And I think a majority of my schoolmates, Sainik school, at least Kerala Sainik school, are history buffs. And the the more you know history, the I think more is the ability to look ahead, see ahead. But there is a saying in the military world that all military leaders, famous leaders, may not have been, all history buffs have not been great leaders, but every great military leader was a history buff. It's an essential part. Yes, history repeats and all, but let me tell you it from the military point of view, since I'm here. Look, technology keeps changing, right? There was the sword and fought with swords, and then just to deter that fellow, someone came up with the spear, and then someone with the bow and arrow, and to get after the guy with the spear. Now, to defeat the guy with the bow and arrow, crossbows came in, and when crossbows came in, that was countered by muskets. That is the basic rifle, and then it goes on like that. Like so, technology keeps jumping. But however, there is something called the principles of war. They never change. So about say about 5 centuries before Christ, there is this Peloponnesian War where Athens and Sparta fought. It was a typical land power versus a sea power. Now, the lessons of that is still studied deeply in the militaries all over the world. Now, it is 2,500 years back. So today you can say that drones have come and things have changed, or satellites are up in the sky, so everything has changed. Nothing changes. Principles don't change. So what happens is that you would actually see two types of experts actually talking on TV and all that. There are some who come out of top positions, in wherever, in corporate or government or wherever. They know exactly what's happening now, and they will be great speakers for the next 1 year. But 2 years from now, he's got nothing to tell you because whatever he knew is dated now, gone. But if the same person had stood atop a lot of history and known the disease or the principles or the patterns, then they remain forever relevant, and it's very easy for them to update their knowledge with what's happening now, because everything, as you said, repeats. The principles remain the same; they just don't change. So history is extremely important, and that is why the Indian Navy in 1960s started, two visionary admirals started something called the Maritime History Society, and the aim was to actually push the love of history into people, and make people read. You can't push people and you can't force them. You have to somehow again make them. But of course, we didn't never reach those lofty aims that we started with. But yes, there are a few suckers like me who continue to hang on, love history.
And now you, I think, go and train. So clearly you're imparting your own love of history to your students and the cadets who come through the system. No, I actually wanted to touch on two things that you briefly mentioned. The Peloponnesian War. What were the two lessons, or maybe one or two insights from that war that are being used today? And there's another thing you said once, and I watched one of your videos, you're talking about a war, the war of one war, which was part of a larger context of a longer conflict. So can you maybe talk about those two items?
Yeah, I can tell you about that. Probably you're talking about the Battle of Jutland and the Battle of Trafalgar, right?
That's one. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Now, first to Peloponnesian War. Today, okay, let us look at Russia, and let's look at America. America is a sea power, right? Russia is a land power. Because Russia, its main coast is in the Arctic, and is frozen half the year. Otherwise, they have some in the just below the Scandinavian countries. They have near Moscow, but they have that, and then they got Vladivostok, which is just next to China in the Pacific, right? Otherwise, Russia is a land power, and America is a sea power compared to that.
Yeah.
Now, say after the Second World War ended, and when the Cold War started, the two sides were now well set as to it. They knew who is opposing who, right? Because they were a land power, the Russians based their warfighting doctrine, on long-range bombing and long-range nuclear submarines. And because of that, the Americans and the West, that is West Europeans, had no option but to counter that with anti-submarine warfare. So they became good at that, right? So these are fundamental factors that come out because of your very nature of being whether you're sea power or a land power. So from that context, Athens and Sparta, one was a land power, one was a sea power, and the lessons of that are very they are just evergreen. Another issue is, I will tell you, now this is the Ionian Sea we are talking about, near Greece. There are lots of this island. There should be a lot of this city states or island states there. Now this was a war that went on for a couple of decades, and within that, what happened is that many of those little states which had nothing to do with this war finally got sucked in. I remember a recent interview of Yuval Harari, the historian from Israel. He says that, look, on 1st September 1939, the Second World War broke out when Germany went into Poland. Now, 2 years later, that is 1st September 1941, if someone had gone and told the Japanese that, look, Second World War has started, you be careful, they would have said, hey, there is something happening in Europe. It's not our baby. 4 years later, they had 2 nuclear bombs on their heads. Right? So, Yuval Harari says that if there is a fire burning somewhere, you don't know which fuse is going to bring it to you. Right? So, now combine that with what I told you about the smaller states getting sucked in for no fault of theirs, just because there's a war going on over their heads. So, when big nations fight, the effect on others is not predictable. You don't know who else is going to get sucked into what, and those vulnerabilities actually increase with the added globalization that is there, the interdependence that is there of nations. So that's where I will leave that answer.
Right.
Okay. I hope I've answered correctly. You want to ask something? You can ask me.
You spoke about globalization, and I think one of the theories that is coming out from the globalization is that there's a supply chain, Dell supply chain factor, where if two countries are on the same supply chain for trade, then the chances of them fighting a war with each other are reduced. Do you see that happening, or do you still see, because over the past 80 years, we've had a lot of peace. I mean, since prehistory, we've had not such a big, long stretch of world peace. Do you see that? Do you see economics at some point trumping war?
Yeah, okay. Excellent question. Money floats above everything else. I completely agree with you. There is nothing that floats above money. However, there are a lot of historical examples of wars being started not because of money, something else. I will tell you examples. Let's say Argentina, the Falklands War of 1982. There was General Galtieri, the army chief of Argentina, who had become the president of, seized power and became the president of Argentina. Now, Admiral Anaya, the Navy chief, also had personal ambitions to become a national hero. So what he did was that in Argentina, Falklands is called Malvinas, and they call it Malvinas, and the rest of the world calls it Falklands. And it's a very emotional issue, like our Kashmir. It's very emotional. It's there in the textbooks, and everybody talks about it, and we must get our Malvinas back and all the time. So on their Independence Day, Admiral Anaya, the Navy chief, took out his fleet and went and fought a war. He just went into Falklands. His own president didn't know. Their own aircraft carrier wasn't refit. If that aircraft carrier is available, which were flying this French Super 800 aircraft, the Brits could have no way taken Falklands. Couldn't have taken it, right? Okay, so here it was a personal ambition that made it happen. There is one of the Israeli wars where I won't name it because I don't want to name the leader. There was not. It's a kind of previous war. It's not one of the earlier wars. They say that there was really no reason to go into that war, but that particular national leader, for her own personal brand value, decided to go into the thing. So the people going for ego, and basically a war can also be like an accident. You're driving your car very nicely, someone else comes and hits you. What do you do? Right? So yes, economics is extremely important. And I think the ultimate book which can tell you all this is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. It's probably the best book ever in this world, Catch-22. In Catch-22, it's the parody on anything possible on this earth. There is a flying officer, Minder Binder. His name is Minder Binder. He's a pilot actually, but he's very good at making money. He's an Air Force guy, Air Force pilot of the American Second World War is on. and he's in a Mediterranean base. Now he comes to fly actually, but he becomes the mess secretary because he says, I'm very good at running the mess and food and all those things because he's a money making fellow. Now there is this wonderful. I mean, it's in that he says he's a guy who could buy eggs at 7 cents and sell at 5 cents and still make a profit. That kind of a guy. He in that actually pays the Germans, takes money from the Germans to get them to bomb his place, his own base. But it's a parody. It's a parody. But there are a lot of his examples in history where it is, there are wars have been started for all kind of reasons: personal ambitions, misplaced politics, misunderstood intentions. There are so many things like that. Or when pressured just to show your power, many things.
And one last strategy military question before we switch to something a little more personal, because we want to unpack your biography also. India it sounds like it has a huge, India has a huge coastline, so it should be a naval come land power. Do you see, and since you're a Navy guy, I can answer it really well. Do you see India investing in projecting naval power the way China and America have aircraft carriers and all that? I know India does have a few aircraft carriers, but do you see how long will it take before India can project the same kind of power and distance as the bigger powers can?
Yeah, okay. I would say it like this. See, everything is actually linked to national values, national aims. Okay. That's what actually, why would you go and, hang around and say Pacific or something? Unless there is a reason, right? Yeah. So just because somebody else is going around the world, you don't have to go around. Right? Okay, that's one. So it's linked to national aims and national values and things like that. Now, next thing is that in certain lectures of mine, I have the India map displayed the upside down with south on top and north below. Okay. Now, and you look at the thing like that, then what do you see? You see the Himalayas down below. You see Pakistan on one side, China on the other. So nothing great can come, through that, go in or come out that way. So then where does it all go out and come from? From the water on three sides. If you look at India the other way around, it's a completely different view of India, surrounded by water. It's a maritime country. But unfortunately, our politics, our thinking is always the other way around. We are not centric. Everything we are not centric. We are on what cannot be done, not on what can be done.
I want to interrupt you right now because this is completely, nobody's ever said this to me, that India is a maritime country which is not thinking in a maritime way. And I don't know. I don't want to.
I didn't say that. I didn't say we're not thinking in a maritime way. I said we're in a maritime country, but our politics and our entire thought process is north-centric and not south-centric. If it is south-centric,
what do you want it to be? Like, what would a maritime India look like? That sounds so fascinating to me that you're talking about this. What would a maritime country, if India were to be a maritime-facing country, like we had the Cholas and the other dynasties in the south, which used to project power to Indonesia, Malaysia, to lots of foreign countries. Do you see India doing something like that? I don't know what it's going to look like, because like you said, our thought process is how do we protect ourselves from our northern neighbors. When it becomes a maritime power, it becomes a slightly different conversation. How do we project power and friendship towards, say, Africa, Australia, Sri Lanka, Seychelles, Maldives, all those countries? Now, what is it going to look like? And I would really want to talk about this.
Yeah, okay. Look, I have a lecture called A 3,000-Year Perspective of India's National Security. And when they hear the topic only, they say 3,000 years, India, national security? Because, yes, actually, it's a long story. It's a completely continuous story of uninterrupted maritime activities for say, thousands of years. We've been in trade with things from, we and China both, of course, have been trading with countries, rest of the world for a long, long time, thousands of years, right? And but unfortunately, there was it was the others who came and took from us. See, people came to you because you had things that the world wanted. Now, if you have everything, you don't have to go and peddle it. They will come and take it from you, right? The McDonald's guy is not on the street, handing out burgers. People go to McDonald's. So the same way, if you get a very loose example, the world would come to you. You don't have to go around peddling. So it was nice and cozy. Till when one fellow came, that's the Europeans, to actually disrupt your the Islamic trade which is going on. They just wanted to corner it for themselves. And the fundamental fight of Islam versus Christianity is what finally then echoes in our lands. The disruption happened because of that, right? So the whatever happened in the medium term, it's because of that. Say, you know that till less than 200 years back, say till 1830s, 60 to 65% of the world's GDP was came from China and India. 60 to 65%. That's because we both had hands. That is people. The countries are open 365 days. It is not shut down because of weather or something like that. And there are the resources. There are a lot of population, because in the pre-industrial land, it is a number of hands that mattered in how much you produced, right? So we had all that. It's the industrial age that we fell back. So 60 to 65% in the pre-industrial age is the GDP contribution of India and China. Today is around 20% combined. It's a huge fall. Now that offsetting happened because of the European intervention, and that happens to the sea. It happened to the sea. Now there is this great maritime thinker from America called Admiral Mahan, Tyre Mahan, Alfred Tyre Mahan. In Alfred Tyre Mahan's theories, there is one thing called physical conformation. That means, like, he says that a country which has got a lot of rivers which come out into the oceans, which make nice harbors, that country is beautiful, excellent, because they can produce all over their country and then send it down through the rivers into the harbors, and then it can go to the rest of the world. Okay. Now the problem is that the same thing can be a vulnerability. There is a saying that if outside your harbor, if your navy is not there, somebody else's navy will be there, and he will always be there. Okay, so it's a vulnerability also. The rivers, it can come in if you're not careful. So India has seen all this. India has been at the center of the maritime world, but somehow there is a maritime blindness that happens. See, in a country like, I have been to say Seychelles. Let's go to Seychelles. Now, Seychelles is a small little country where they are dependent on ships bringing stuff. When suddenly, if because of bad weather, if two ships get cancelled, the country might run out of toilet paper. It can happen, right? And till a couple of years back, I used to follow the Pakistani newspapers every day. And in Port Qasim is next to Karachi. That's where the merchant ships come. Tankers come. Or the tanker arrivals were everyday's newspaper items. You know why? Because in Pakistan they always had a power problem, availability problem, and there's this oil coming in and gas coming in was extremely important for their power sector. And the country kept waiting, bated breath. Ship aa raha hai, nahi aa raha hai. We are not bothered about these things in India. You see, we are not bothered. I mean, when we stand on beaches and look at the nice ocean and sunset and sunrise, you don't know what's happening beyond that. There's a navy. There's a navy protecting. The fact that things are going on all right means everything is working.
Right.
And in a country like India, it takes a long time for that setbacks to actually take effect on ground. But in a country like Seychelles or say Pakistan, it'll be immediately felt if there's a disruption. That is the point I was making. So there is a blindness. Of course, there is a sea blindness, and there are a lot of people trying to overcome all that.
And I think you're one of the people who are trying to help overcome that because of your work you do in the training colleges. This is fascinating. I want to keep digging more. Your expertise, I think the language that you learned when you were in military school was Chinese. And I'm assuming that you have a slight bias, or you're curious about the Chinese way of working as well. Is that true?
Well, no, nothing. Chinese was my language in the National Defense Academy. You have to learn a foreign language. So,
are you still focused on the Chinese military and their strategic?
Yes, very much.
They are doing something which is contrary to projecting naval power. They're doing the Belt and Road Initiative, where it's building, they're doing infrastructure projects in small countries, big countries all over the world. So what do you think of that strategy, and how does that, I think the one reason from what I understand why they are not a military power yet given the size of the economy, is because they are being boxed in by Japan, South Korea, then Philippines, and all the smaller countries, which are being used by America to sort of box in China and Taiwan, those countries. And so how does the Belt and Road Initiative and like infrastructure-based colonialism, how does it play into strategy? Like, does India also should be thinking about belt infrastructure colonialism, or should it be naval power? I just want to ask.
Yeah, too many complex things packed in there. First of all, let me tell you that nobody is boxed in China. China is today, I think, probably slightly better than the Americans. Uh, they are, the massive production that they've got. It's very big. They are really building up their strength. The 1979 policy of Deng Xiaoping, being that we must lie low, bide our time, and build up our economic strength, and let's see thereafter. We'll see about the rest of the world. And they really worked. They were focused on a long-term plan, and it has worked. I'll just take one example of how why they say to tell you why am I so easily brushing off the Americans as a peer. I'll take an example. See, look, at sea, you need to carry your petrol pump along. You have petrol and diesel. There's no petrol pump at sea. So you have to carry it along. And those are done by things called oilers. There's tanker ships. And we have our own tankers. So you've seen those fancy photographs of tanker aircraft and a fighter aircraft coming and fueling from them. Same thing happens at sea. The tanker goes, and other ships come on the sides and behind and connect up hoses, and we take fuel. Now, the essence of maritime power, that is sea power, is mobility. It means you can go anywhere in the world. That's mobility. But for that, you need diesel, and that's got to be there. Currently, the Americans are extremely down on their oilers, on their tankers, which seriously affects their. Recently, one of their tankers had a grounding, had an accident, and they had to, I think, rush one from Pacific to the Africa region, that is Central Command. They had to rush one tanker. I can't imagine this. The Americans having to, and one tanker fails and they are in trouble. And the problem with this is that you can't suddenly overcome this because shipbuilding industry is not something that you can revive overnight. It takes decades. Whereas the Chinese and the Koreans and all that, and the Japanese and all, wonderful. The Chinese are the best, of course, and amazing shipbuilding powers. Now that kind of power, with that, they're already gaining ground. They're not losing ground. The Americans will find it very tough to now catch up, but they're really ahead. Now you can say that the Chinese have never fought a war, so do they have real practical experience? There, I would just say that quantity has a quality of its own. It's numbers really matter. Okay, so having put that aside, that they're not boxed or anything like that, they are big and probably the biggest. Okay. Now, I'm sorry, the rest of your question I'm forgetting, Sai.
Infrastructure colonialism, Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, in 2014, I think is the time when the OBOR came out, One Belt, One Road Initiative, and I should lecture at that time. And the theory at that time was that there is always their great thought of interdependencies all over the world, and you have your own supply chains, and that's correct. But you always dig deeper and see why are they doing it? Is it just philanthropy? Is it just grand vision? Is it all very nice and benign, or is there anything beyond that? Of course, power play is not entirely benign. Power play is power play. Whether it's the corporate sector or personally between human beings, power play is serious business. It's not very benign or anything like that. So obviously, if they wanted to be a world power, they had to do that. But enabling that at that time was this factor that they themselves were in recession. There was this huge amount of construction material and capability, and trained personnel, which is available with no projects in the country. Right? It's a beautiful way of channelizing your excess into somewhere else for your long-term gains. Okay, now that is amazing policy. It's amazing policy. I still have the data with me of 2014 of their steel, of their cement, of their all those things which was excess, and they found a beautiful way to put it all over the world. And so One Belt, One Road is good. Yes, there is this narrative of dependencies, how they trap you into debt and all that. Yes, must have happened in many places. Must have happened, but then that is power game. I mean, if they want to be a world power, they're a world power. See,
Right.
yeah, but everything is not hunky dory. I mean, everything is not very nice. I will tell you. See, when Mao said they get independence 2 years after us, 1948, yeah, 1 year after us, I think. And the Communist Party comes to power under Mao, and Mao had a singular focus on making China a, world power. Surely you know that's two basic terms. What I'm saying, how China is written in China in Chinese. It's Tungko. Yes, Tungko means Middle Kingdom, and the characters are one rectangle, vertical rectangle with one line crossing through it. You will see it behind the athletes and all, no, the t-shirts. And on the right, the next one is another rectangle with one vertical line inside, three crosses, and one small thing. Middle Kingdom. They were the center of the world, and the world rotated around them. That is their concept. And in the 100 years of about that humiliation that they had at the hands of the Europeans, the opium wars and things like that, right? And it's national policy that they are going to hit back. They will get back into the world as a great power.
Hmm.
So this things like One Belt One Road initiative, yeah, it's what somebody, whether it is right or good or bad for us is very different. That's not a
Hmm.
question, or for other countries. But yes, that is their vision of the world. That is the vision. That is their vision of their place in the world. They're pushing,
Right.
and it's working in parts not working.
Right. So, and I wanted to quickly take a minute to let the audience know that if you have any questions for Commodore, please do throw it into the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, you can do that as well. But now we're going to change tracks a little bit because I like in popular imagination, army people, sorry, not army people, armed forces people are extremely boring. Maybe not boring is not the right word. Extremely rules based, and everything is very strictly done. So, Commodore, how are you as a person? And when you were in NDA and Sainik school and all that, did you imagine you becoming what you are today? Like, did you imagine being able to do the things you do today because you were a part of the army, sorry, the armed forces programs?
Okay. First of all, whatever I claim to be now, it'll be absolutely opposite. Will be my wife's opinion. So we'll keep that aside. If you really want to know, you have to ask my wife. But yeah, it's. I think I was lucky. I've written about it. I've spoken about it. I still speak about it. That I had a happy childhood, very happy childhood. Rural South Kerala, nice place. And then went to lucky to go to a Sainik school. The old Sainik schools, about 28 of them, which were set up in the 1960s, unparalleled institutions. Where I will tell you, when we had about 300 acres of land, okay, in that school. Once an admiral called Admiral Madhvendra Singh, who was the chief, who later became the chief of the navy, he came to my school, and I was there with him because I was on his staff. He first came to the school, and as we entered, he asked, "Where is your school here?" We said, "Sir, we are going." Yeah. He said, "But where is the school?" 350 acres, sir. It takes time. And
Hmm.
once we reached the school, he told the principal, he had come for a meeting. He said, "Keep the meeting, delayed. Let me just go around the campus." He went around the campus, and then he said, "Okay, assemble all the children." And in the auditorium, he said these words. He said, "Till now, I thought that St. Stephen's Jaipur, where I studied, was the ultimate school in the world. Today, I have seen a different school, a better school." He said, "In this school, there is so much of space that you don't have to do anything. Just spend 8 years and go away from here. Your mind will also be, grow big, and your
Hmm.
thoughts will be, your horizons will be broad. Just be in this space. That's enough." When we
Hmm.
were very, very lucky, we used to call our teachers masters, and the masters ate with us. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they would eat with us. That is, where we started. So we got a lot of freedom. We played. They told us, I saw that the video which was played at the beginning of this program, it's about learning and about living and all that. We were taught the most important lesson. It was that we must know how to fail, because in life we are going to fail all the time. Every day we're going to fail, face setbacks. So they said, play games. Games are the best. You will lose, and you get used to losing. Next thing is that we were never when I mean, there were guys who could run faster than me. There are people who could study much better than me. There are people who could jump higher than me. It doesn't mean that I had any ill will towards them. We sincerely clapped when they did it. I mean, I have seen later audiences where everyone wants their children to come first. It's not possible.
Hmm.
So that is the kind of freedom in which we grew up there. Then
Right.
went to the National Defense Academy, and where it's a different ball game. There, it's a real hard place. and then came to the Navy. But the armed forces, what's good about the armed forces is that, contrary to probably the perceptions that you just expressing, you have full freedom to grow as an individual. Like I'm a singer, I'm a trained singer. I still sing. I mean, you can write, you can do your pursue your hobbies. You can say, you see about the people going around the world, people climbing Everest, and all that is paid. I mean, not as they say, LOP in the corporate world. What is the loss of pay? There's no loss of pay. All this is part of your stuff, and it's a family. The armed forces is a family where there is a lot of value for group activities, family activities, unit activities, camaraderie, friendships, engagement. It's a different world. So I was just lucky. I did nothing special. I was just lucky that I landed up wherever I landed up. There's no great quality that brought me anywhere. That I was lucky. I would only say that.
And I believe you're a multi-generational armed forces family. I think your father was in the army. Your son is also in the army. Do you sense any, like, you've probably seen conflict and combat. Now that you have your own son in the armed forces, do you feel any worry, or do you think, what's going to happen is going to happen?
Okay, I'll answer in a very different way. Okay, my father, by the way, was 38 years in the Air Force, and he fought all the wars of India. That means he was there in the service in 62, 65, and 71. Okay, all the three wars. And in the 62 war, he was in Assam area, and they were told to disband, unit to disband, and told disappear. No, don't let the Chinese catch you. That situation they were in. And okay, but I'll answer this question in a different way. I've been asked in one interview that were we scared, like when we used to fly helicopters at sea, were we scared? But if you ask me, of course, I'm a human being. I will be scared. There's a doubt in that, right? But then if you are so well trained and so busy that there is no need to be worried, and B, you have no time to be worried. You just don't worry about it, right? You don't even think about those. So my son is there. I know. Yes, we don't even bother. I mean, it's just a normal workplace. There are no any
so
extra thinking.
So when you hear civilians, praise army people, no, I keep saying army, I meant armed forces people. When they praise armed forces people as the ultimate sacrifice, and they're kept on a pedestal. How seriously do armed forces people take that praise? Like within, do you feel like you're a superhero, or do you feel like I'm just
No,
regular?
absolutely not. In fact, I tell audiences, please, I'm just I went there for my job. Yeah. It just you found a job, I found a job. That's it. I mean, from Sainik school, that schools they were designed to produce officers for the armed forces. So but just because you join there, you're not going to come here. But they at least focus you towards it. And about 20% of us make it. 80% does not. But they become very, very great guys in their lives, right? The rest of the 80. Now, I have been telling audiences that we are not special people. I'm not a football team for people to be cheering me. Come on, fight, fight. No, I'm not a football team player. We are just doing our job. And anyway, even if you cheer, I'm not hearing it. So there's no point. When Virat Kohli is batting, he's hearing the crowds and he knows he gets charged up. I'm not hearing a thing. I'm hearing the drone of some rotor above me or some engine whirring. Nothing else. So actually, we're not any superheroes or anything. It's just that we're doing our job. And we don't have to put on any pedestal. It's just my job. That's it. And in fact, in the day, if I feel that I am a superhero and all, that's the beginning of my fall. I don't think that's the way to look at it. I tell audiences proactively, please don't put us on a pedestal, and we're not a football team for anybody to cheer or support and all. That's not our job.
So over the past 20 years, you've been training and giving lectures. So what are the kind of audiences that you get? The quality of the cadets and the officers who are coming through your training programs, the kind of civilian engagement that you do on behalf of the armed forces. I think you also speak in civilian institutions. Do you see any qualitative change in the cadets coming in, and how the civil society is engaging with the armed forces?
Okay. In the end, you put a twist and mixed up two things. Okay, I'll say okay. Let me just say the audiences. Audiences, if it is the National Defense College or the War Colleges or the Staff College, CDM and all that, those are all regular courses of the armed forces at various stages. In fact, the War course all over the world is the highest course you do, highest learning you do in any country is called the War course. That's done by colonels, that is captains in the Navy. Now, uh, there the teaching is purely military. I cover history, of course. I cover history and I cover people, things like that. Um, and civil audiences, I have been, in 2009 onwards, for 10 years, I was taking classes for IAS, IFS, IPS, not IPS, IRS probationers. Because when the civil services guy, they 1 year of probation, they come to various departments for they call it the Bharat Darshan. And, in the Navy, I should take the lectures for 10 years. Now, like one transformation that you just said, I will tell you. Initially in 2009, when I would have an IAS group of some 40 IAS officers in front of me, about 40% of them, 40-50% of them used to be humanities graduates, and some engineers and some otherwise MSc, that kind. But as time passed, they came at the stage where 80% of the class is BTech, and some 15% will be MBBS or some BDS, VDS, and all that. And only, out of 1 or 2 out of 40 would be MA English or sociology or something. And I would want to kiss that person and I tell them that, look, you guys are going to run society. You open newspapers every day. You don't see physics, chemistry, history, physics, chemistry, mathematics there. You see faith, religion, economics, things that run the world are humanities actually. You're going to run the society. You need to, at least as a hobby, please go after humanities. That's going to help you. Okay, so that's one transformation I've seen. Otherwise, I go to universities, I go to schools, colleges, corporate bodies, all kind of audiences I see. And yes, this standard of education, of course, is a problem. You know that in the country, there's a problem. There's a problem of expression. How to express ask questions, the freedom to question, even the sheer need to question, but they don't even question. They listen to you learn. In fact, I remember at a very high level, high fees school. I once gave a talk about about a talk called "Know Your World." I was told them about what is the world you're going to get into once you get into out of your education phase as a professional. What is the world? So I told them a sweep of entire world and the problem. I asked questions, no questions. I said, no, I'm not going without a question. And finally, one 11th standard boy asked me, "Sir, how many people have you killed?" This is the kind of understanding. I mean, so yes, I think reading, interaction, joint family background, these things are very important, and I think that is showing on society.
You mentioned in one of your interviews that joint families are a great training ground for armed forces people. Do you still feel that? Do you still because
yes,
society is going back to joint families? We are a nuclear society now. People are preferring nuclear families. We're not ever going back to joint family systems. Where do you see how do you train individuals to start working as a unit? Maybe this could be also something that you learned in the NDA.
Yes, I do that as a like I even speak to the Agniveers, that is the sailors training in Chilka. I just finished it 2 weeks back. When yesterday I've got the photographs and all. Today I put it on social media. I'll put it today. Um, there is a lecture of mine called Three Breakups of the 20th Century. There are three things that broke up in the 20th century which have got tremendous impact for the future. First is the atom. They broke up the atom and it produced the atom bomb. I mean, people thought that it is such a great weapon that because of this now there will be no more wars. But the opposite has happened. Just because of that, some people can fight with somebody else, right? Second is the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union was there was a bipolar world. In any system, there has to be at least bipolarity, but there is always a check in on things. But in 1991, the Soviet Union broke up into Russia plus 15 countries, and then the West was alone for about 10 years, and you can see what happened after that. But the most important breakup is the breakup of the joint family. Joint family, at least I know that the SSB, the Services Selection Board, the 1 week's extremely tough psychological screening that the armed forces officers go through before we are selected. In that, I understand that they actually there is a bit more appreciation for children who come from joint families, because their ability to take emotional stress and to manage through life is slightly better. So now I tell the audiences that today you can't now, if you have grown up in a nuclear family, you can't order a grandpa on Amazon. You have to do something about it now. What do you do? Yes, what do you do? I tell them is that your new family is these people sitting around you. In a class, I mean, when you grow up with your classmates, there is no big person and there is no small person in a class. Everybody is safe. Everybody knows everybody, very well. So that is when your batch who's sitting with you, your shipmates, your unit mates, you have no option but to consider them as family. You cannot withdraw yourself into the four walls of your house with your wife and kids, and you hope to get you have to know how to share joy, how to share sadness. Joy, I tell them, multiplies if you share, and sadness, it dilutes if you share. You will find people giving you solutions. So you need to engage. I tell them that your new joint family is your own mates who are around you. Do that. And in our system, like you see, when the Bombay blasts happened, let's say Bombay blast means the Dawood Ibrahim Bombay blast, the Navy just sailed out. Navy sailed out en masse. So suddenly all the men left. You see, now you have only the community of all the women and children there, right? So how does the community work? That community can only work if they already have a lot of camaraderie and everybody knows everybody else and there is a system in place. So it just doesn't matter if the man of the house goes away. But imagine a lot of nuclear families and suddenly all the men go away, or say all the women go away, something like that. Well, it's catastrophic. I mean, you don't know how to handle it. So I tell people that, build your own joint family. That's your mates around.
Okay. So now we're going to use that, and what you say to your audience, I want to do that to our audience as well. Guys, we have a few people in the audience. You have to ask a question. We're not leaving if you don't ask a question. I'm going to put that as a requirement for this interview to end. It's been a fascinating 54 minutes. We have
54 minutes.
Yes, I didn't, until I noticed, I didn't realize it's been so long. So please do have a question. Shabana, it's your turn to find us a question. Otherwise, we're not leaving without that.
You mentioned that you are a great trained singer. So I think
I'm not a great trained singer. I just said trained singer.
Yeah. So I think anyone who is trained, I think they are better than rest of us. So if you would like to sing anything.
Goodness. Really, do you really want to subject your audience to that? They will unsubscribe.
In our audience, everyone likes singing.
Of course, why not?
Is it an Indian audience or is it a foreign audience?
So we have mix of that. Rajwin is from Malaysia and other two like Miniji and Gurmiji. We are all Indians. So.
Okay. What do I sing here? Okay. I'll tell you. I sing 4 lines. Okay.
Commodore, I have a request. So can you sing like a Navy themes, like a Navy war song? I don't know war song. What those things?
There's no war song.
But there must be some fun songs that you guys sing in the Navy, no? Maybe that.
Maybe peace song.
Like the food in the army, they say is mighty fine. Like those kind.
We don't sing anything like that. What you see in the movies is not what the Navy is.
All right.
It's a very informal, casual, fun place. Very fun place.
So you pick your song then.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just tell you this. Okay. See, just a lesson before I sing those words. I've studied in a Malayalam medium school and I went to Sainik school. It's where I started learning English and didn't know really how to speak well and all that. Very conscious of our, I never actually bothered about accent. I never thought about it. One fine day, I was going to my teacher's. He would teach me one English song for the competition. I was going up to his house. I heard, it's a published story. I've written about it. I heard somebody singing something there and I couldn't recognize. So I waited on the steps. Once the singing stopped, I went up on top and he said, GP Prakash, meet Joji, Thomas, sir's son, is just joined us from St. Stephen's or something. He joined us. So after he left, I asked him, said, what language was he singing in? He said, that was English. That's when I realized that I had been singing in Malayali English, all those years. And it really hit me. That is the first time I realized, there is something wrong with the way I'm singing. So that's that song I sang that year was Top of the World. It's English. Okay. And I never touched English after that. About 3 decades later, I told the Navy band, I used to play, I was sing with the Navy band. I told these guys on a fun moment, I told them the story. They said, sir, next you're going to sing Top of the World. So I think I'll sing Top of the World. Okay.
A plus.
Yeah, it's I hope I live. Mm, Such a feeling coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Everything a world love to me is now coming true, especially for me. In the leaves on the trees and the touch of the breeze, there's a pleasing sense of happiness for me. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love put me at the top of the world. That's it, right?
Ladies, we need to do this, ladies and gentlemen. We need to give a big round of applause for our Indian idol, the man who 3 decades after he first heard the song is repeating it for us. So nice of him to do that. All right, so we have time for maybe one more word game, if Shabana permits. Otherwise, it's nearly 9 o'clock. Shabana, what do you think? Can we play that last word? Same name, place, animal thing with a different word this time? Because I want to start and end on a fun note.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So,
Minuji, do you have a question?
No, not a question. I was just appreciating, sir. It was awesome. Like great spirit. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I've seen one of your videos. I can now recognize the face. Hello, hi.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just saw that yesterday. One of the links sent to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
I want to second what Meenu was saying. Commodore, I've interacted with you personally. I've interacted with you on other forums. It's amazing how young at heart you are. And I credit,
Absolutely.
first of all, your family structure and the Navy for keeping you young. It's amazing. It's like, and from for the audiences who don't know Commodore GP that well, he has not just been doing all these things that he did in the Navy. He's run kindergarten schools. He's run gas stations. It's like in one of his videos, he says that, he's like one of those wind-up toys. The Navy just wound him up and set him free. And then he's just exploring the world now. He's just going out and having fun. So, Commodore, I really, really appreciate the enthusiasm for life that you showed to us in this 1 hour that we spent with you. Are you ready for the last word game, or did somebody else have a question or some other comments to make?
They'll take a question.
I think.
And you spoke very well. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. So, like 30 seconds again, and the word this time is going to be the word book.
What book?
The word book. Yes. Name, place, animal thing. Yeah.
Oh, book. Oh, name definitely Slave of the Hunts. Place NDA, National Defense Academy. What is it? Place and thing? No.
Animal and thing.
Yeah, animal. Animal is furred. The thing that is horses with fur on them.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the last thing you say?
Thing. Associated
thing.
with book. Huh.
Yeah. A spear.
Again, you've made it in the nick of time. So now you have to walk us through your answers. The first, I couldn't hear very well. What is the name that you said? Slave
of the Hunts. So now, okay, it's going to be great fun knowing this. I joined the National Defense Academy in 1981. Went to the library as usual, my favorite place, and picked up a book by chance. That book was called Slave of the Huns, Huns. Okay, it's a love story from the time of Attila the Hun of Hungary. Okay, it's written by Geza Godoniu. The next 3 years, I was very selfish. Nobody else read that book because I would return it on time and reissue it again. I don't know, something I was so attached to that book. Later in life, I decided to get hold of this book. I couldn't find it. And then I finally got my brother-in-law to buy a second-hand one from America. Today, you look on, I checked yesterday, I was telling you, there's a girl who had come for internship in our studio. I was telling her about a list of books, and I tell her about Slave of the Huns yesterday. And I Googled the price of the second-hand now. It's not available. It ranges from 5,000 to 25,000. One book. Now, that book for some time was the National Book of Hungary. Obviously, there is something great about it. Okay. And the protagonist in that, young boy called Zita, is a DTA. Is still a favorite name. It's a good name that's in current use in there after so many centuries. Now, in that, of course, so now I suppose a lot of people might now try to read Slave of the Huns. It's one hell of a book. and it's a love story. And maybe it was my age at that time which really attached me to that. No, it was I was the correct age, 17 or 18 or whatever. So in that the characters have everything else that I told you. The places, where this happened, and the animals are there, and the illustrations. Those animals with furs, on which they would fight, and the spears what the barbarians would have. That's how all those things came in a flood to me in one shot.
I see. So the interesting thing to me is that I know you as an adult, as a retired Navy officer, but to imagine you at the age of 17 in National Defense Academy, picking up a book of romance and enjoying it and making it part of your personality, because you, after the years you went back and sought that book out, it must have made a big impact on you. This is insight that generally don't get to just hang out with people just like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think with that, we come to the end of this episode of Consciously Positive. I really appreciate the time that Commodore spent with us. Thank you so much, Commodore. And Shabana, thank you for the opportunity to have Commodore on this show with me. Over to you. And I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm going to give it to Shabana to take it forward.
Yeah, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank Sai and Shabana for the audience who've suffered me on a Sunday morning. It was extremely great fun to interact.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for joining Consciously Positive. It was really a great morning for us as well. And I think Miniji.
It was an awesome session. Thank you so much. Both of you were awesome. Thank you so much.